What I'd like to have in North Dakota is a North Dakota for all North Dakotans, and it has not been that. A lot of people were approaching me to run for governor and asking me to run, and there was a fellow I talked to that I'd made a connection with before any of that really came up, but we hadn't had a time to get together. And I spent a Sunday night at his home in Washburn, and he talked about how his life was, how he as a firefighter had been seriously injured, requiring him to be really in a wheelchair for years, and how he was almost killed in a fire. And then the result of that was that the state of North Dakota treated him like a criminal and punished him. And he had a lot of trouble with the state of North Dakota. He lost his house. His business pretty well went away. And he was left to fend for himself. And it just isn't right that someone who risks his life and limb to protect us would be treated that way. But that's what we currently have. The thing that probably affected me the most deeply was at the end of the evening, he shook my hands and he thanked me. And I asked him, "Why are you thanking me? I haven't done anything for you." And he said, "You're the first person who listened to me. All those years, no one listened to him." My first job away from home was as an apiary inspector for the North Dakota Department of Ag. And it was a wonderful job in many ways. I literally have been everywhere in this state. I've put on thousands and thousands of miles as an employee of the state of North Dakota, more than I even will as a governor candidate. And one of the deepest effects that it had on me happened one day I was in the department, and I hadn't been there very long, and Myron Just was the ag commissioner, and he stuck his head out of the door, and he invited me in, and I was a little nervous, I didn't know what was going on, and he sat down, and Myron Just talked to me. He didn't talk at me, he talked to me, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and he asked me about issues, and he really became, at that moment, the model to me for how government can be. We have conflicts, we have disagreements, we can't always do everything for everyone, but we should listen. We should treat each other with respect. I gave an earlier example of WSI, but it's not just that one agency. One of the worst days in the state legislature, a young woman came, and she had been beaten such that it was surprising that she survived. She had a very severe brain injury. She looked okay, but she really was not capable of doing a lot of things. And you all have to forgive my 2-year-old granddaughter. But she was not capable of filling out forms. And yet she went to agency after agency of the state. People who were supposedly there to serve the public. And who needed more service than a person who was disabled? And she got help from not a single agency. And we were all mad, and we all felt terrible, but it really hasn't changed. And somehow, we have to change it so the people who most seriously need help receive it. If you were to take a look at our penitentiary in North Dakota, you would conclude that mental illness is a felony. We lock people up with no good reason other than they're mentally ill. This is inhumane, and this is poor government. And it's expensive. There is no excuse for us continuing to not treat mental illness in this state. And many of the people that are affected are truly the heroes of our society. Armed forces, firemen, policemen, they are due their just respect, and they are due service by us to them. Now, those are some examples of what might be fairly small groups. But if you look across this state and the way the government is behaving, landowner groups are springing up. because they don't trust the government to take care of them unless they get a big enough group that their votes are something to be afraid of. We get students who can't vote. We get all kinds of groups that renters, minorities. It's as if a good portion of the population of the state of North Dakota is thought to be the enemy of those people in power. The first thing our government has to quit is it has to quit trying to get people not to participate in government. The problems are not caused by too many participants. All need to be welcome and all need to be listened to. The state's financial situation's in the news every day. We're a commodity-driven economy. Energy, agriculture, and through the energy industry, they're really tied together. That probably the normal thing would be low ag and low energy, or high ag and high energy. And if we're going to get off this roller coaster, we really need to diversify across North Dakota, and we need to do it over a long period of time, because you can't just do it overnight. We have to protect those industries, but we still have to diversify. If you ask, all the politicians will come and tell you what a bright future North Dakota has, and how it's growing, and how it has such a wonderful economy. But you know, the thing is, actions speak louder than words. And this state has billions of dollars of capital that it invests. It invested in New York, it invested in Chicago, it invested in China. But it doesn't invest in Grand Forks, it doesn't invest in Bowbells, it doesn't invest in White Earth. So what their actions tell you is that these people expect North Dakota to die. They believe that the right place that you need to make your investments is someplace else, any place else, even China. If you look at the Bakken today, if you listen to what everyone says about the Bakken, what would be a better investment than to be buying up oil wells in the Bakken? Yet do you see anyone calling for the formation of a state oil company? We have a state mill, we have a state bank. Why, if that's such an investment, such a good thing, why is there absolutely no thought process in our current government towards even investing that money here? We have to do it right, and it's always a problem. You have to keep politicians' fingers off of it. But it makes no sense to continue putting all of our capital for someone else to build their economy while we're all sitting here and all are saying that we need to diversify. You're going to hear a lot of refrain of cut, cut, cut. Cut the state budget. The solution is cut. We need to cut. Somehow, somewhere, there must be this Quonset of state tournaments having or state employees having a whist tournament. I have not found this Quonset. We have these services that we need to provide. The other thing is, well, cut the programs. But do we actually cut government? Most of the state programs, all you can cut is who pays for it. And if we cut the state programs, often that comes with federal matching funds. That then when we push the responsibility down to the local level, your property taxes are going to pay for that, and then the federal money is gone. It makes no sense to do these cuts. We have to somehow come up with a way to balance the budget and do it with a reasonable level, and the state needs to step up and do its part that it should have done for years. Things like state funding of social services. That should have never become a local responsibility. That's true property tax reform when we start to take back what the state dumped when things were tough in the 80s. I'm really concerned that the initial budget cuts just were not enough. The governor used just about all the flex he had. The rainy day fund is down to a very small amount, and it continues to rain. I really think with the depth that we were and such, we're probably going to come into the next legislative session needing another $300 or $400 million just to get out of the biennium, with very few options of what to do. And everything that we do then will give us that much fewer options the next biennium. Officials keep calling that they are the best run state in the nation, that they won an award. And yet I just got a little thing last week that the state treasurer said she's going to start keeping track of how much money is in a budget in each account now. You know, I always thought that was part of the job. Basically, they've been spending to the budget because we all know that just more money is going to keep showing up, but more money didn't show up. And we know we had at least the oil grants spent money they didn't have, and I don't know how many other spent money they have. All this is going on. We're having this election at a time that it appears our governor has lost interest. We are adrift. We're double difficulty because even as we speak, the budget for the next biennium is being formed. Very soon, all the criteria for the next budget will be given to agencies. The preliminary budgets will be in July. The final budget will be in October. And everything will be handed out in December, and all the agencies' bills were there. People ask me what I'm going to do if I win and I show up in January. And I go, well, I'll have to be very careful because I'm basically a lobbyist at that point with a veto pen. But if I threaten the veto pen, I won't be in office anymore. So we are in real difficulties, and we need to work this out, and we need the input from people all across North Dakota of how to do this. I hope to involve the people in my campaign. I hope that many of you will be involved in my campaign as we go across and we take back North Dakota for all North Dakotans. This concludes my prepared remarks. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I guess I'll wrap up our press conference. And I really do thank you all for being here. And I know I'm not going to be rushing out. I got a few things to do in town, but I really do appreciate all the support. Thank you for coming today.